November 7th, 2023, Gianluigi Donnarumma returns to the San Siro after leaving AC Milan 2 years ago. A club that gave him his debut at 16, Donnarumma left in controversial fashion. The issue was money. A generational goalkeeper saw his nickname amongst Milan fans change from Gigio to Donnarumma. And to remind him of their dislike towards him, Milan fans at the San Siro showered the Italian with fake dollars in his first match back at their stadium. But you see, this was not the first time Donnarumma was showered with fake money by the fans. What happened between him and PSG is not the first high-drama contract dispute the player has had. This has happened before, again and again and again. So in this video, we're going to trace the whole journey as to how one of the most talented goalkeepers in the world became just as famous for his saves as for his contract disputes, and why this latest PSG exit proves that maybe it was never just his supervillain football agent Mino Raiola pulling the strings. You see, Donnarumma's rise was ridiculous. 16 years old and he was already starting for AC Milan. I still remember watching his debut match against Sassuolo. At that age, most kids are still worrying about school exams. This guy was stopping shots from grown men. It didn't take long for the hype train to kick in. The future of Milan, the future of Italian football is what they were saying. And for a while, that's exactly how it looked. But then came the first big twist. The moment he went from hero to a villain. Just as he nailed down the #1 shirt, the news dropped. Donnarumma wasn't going to renew his contract. And remember, this is when he was being represented by Mino Raiola, football's most infamous dealmaker. Fans were furious, and they didn't just tweet about it. During an under-21 match for Italy against Denmark, they rained fake banknotes all over the pitch. The message was clear: you're just in it for the money. It rattled him. His performances at that tournament dipped and his stock took a bit of a hit. But guess what? A month later, they got the deal that they wanted anyways. Around 6 million a season, and there's a kicker. Part of the deal was that Milan had to sign his brother, Antonio, as the backup goalkeeper for almost £1 million a year. Antonio was playing in Greece at the time. And let's just say he wasn't exactly setting the world on fire. Fast forward to 2018, Buffon retires from international football, and there's no debate. Donnarumma is instantly Italy's #1. By Euro 2020, he's at his peak. The wall at the back, the penalty hero, the guy who literally drags Italy to the trophy. He even became the first goalkeeper to win the player of the tournament. And just when Milan thought that they'd actually build their team around him for the long haul, the contract circus came back to town. Raiola was asking for 12 million a season for Donnarumma, plus a 15 to 20 million euro commission fee for himself. Milan were already struggling financially after COVID, and those demands were beyond what they could offer, or probably most other clubs could offer. So the negotiations collapsed, and Milan's sporting director at the time, Paolo Maldini, came out and confirmed it. Donnarumma's contract was running down, and he'd be gone by June 30th. So suddenly, Europe's elites started circling, and Milan's #1 was on the market for free. But here's the thing, Maldini is no fool. While all the drama was going on, he'd already been cooking up his plan B. Quietly, behind the scenes, he signed Lille's Mike Maignan before Donnarumma had even officially said goodbye. Almost like Maldini knew, this was always how the Donnarumma story was going to end. After Milan secured Champions League football on the final day, they had missed Champions League football for about 7 seasons in a row. But after Milan secured that Champions League spot on the final day, Maldini went up to Gigio and asked him directly, "Will you stay?" And Donnarumma didn't even give him an answer. He just said, "You have to talk to my agent." And that was it. That was the moment Maldini knew, for a player Milan had trusted since the age of 16, for a kid who owed everything to the Rossoneri, I assume Maldini expected some loyalty. What he got instead was business, cold transactional business. Donnarumma's exit didn't just sting for Milan fans, it burnt. Here was a guy who stood in front of cameras, hand on his heart, talking about how much he loved the Rossoneri, and yet, when it came down to it, he walked away for nothing, no transfer fee, no farewell gift for the club that essentially made him, just gone. To the fans, it wasn't just that he left, it was how he left. They felt played. And when PSG swooped in with a fat contract and the promise of Champions League football, it confirmed what a lot of people had suspected for years. Donnarumma's loyalty had a price tag. Even after he left, Milan fans never let him forget it. Every time his name came up, they had the same nickname ready, Donnarumma. And going back to that November 7th, 2023 game, his return to the San Siro after joining PSG, that fake cash that we talked about that Milan fans, rained all over Donnarumma, had that exact name, Donnarumma, on it. Now you have to say, his camp didn't exactly help with the PR either. His new agent came out swinging, basically saying, we left Milan because the club wasn't stable. Too many ownership changes, too much chaos, we saw it coming. Which is kind of ironic because Donnarumma stayed through 6 years of the banter era with Milan. But the very season he left, Milan won their 19th Serie A title with Mike Maignan in goal, winning the award for the best goalkeeper for the season. But the agent even doubled down on that, claiming that apart from that one magical Scudetto year under Maldini and Massara, the rest of those seasons weren't up to Milan standards anyways. Then he doubled down, saying that going to Paris was the right move for Donnarumma's career, for his national team role, and for his status as one of the best goalkeepers in the world. And in fairness, he's not wrong. Donnarumma pretty much won all of football after making his move to Paris. He won a league title, a national cup, Champions League trophy. He's pretty much won it all. So the move to Paris was a success. But the agent's words, the PR team's words, they didn't just burn the bridge with Milan. They went back with a freaking flamethrower. From there, the Paris chapter began, and for a while, PSG must have felt like they'd hit the jackpot. Donnarumma wasn't just good, he was ridiculous. Week after week, he was pulling off saves that made you pause the replay just to figure out how the ball didn't go in. Reflexes, razor sharp. Reactions, insane. And in the biggest games, he seemed to grow even bigger. Of course, there were some cracks, like that infamous night against Real Madrid, the one where Benzema smelled blood, pressed him into a mistake, and the whole tie unraveled. For every superhuman save, there were always, that one moment where you'd hold your breath waiting for an error. But then came the season that changed PSG's history, their first ever Champions League win, and Donnarumma was right in the middle of it. From the quarterfinals to the final whistle, in the last match, Donnarumma was the guy. Point blank saves, fingertip stops, one-on-one shutdowns before the shot even left the boot. When that trophy was finally in Paris's hands, everybody knew without Donnarumma, it probably wouldn't have happened. But as history has shown us, glory and Donnarumma, they never stayed together for long. 2.5 months ago, he's lifting the Champions League trophy. July 13th, he's starting against Chelsea in the Club World Cup final. He's only 26, in his prime, and it didn't feel like Luis Enrique had any issues in that position. Then, out of nowhere, PSG drops 35 million on Lucas Chevalier from Lille. Young, French, talented. And for Milan fans, it was deja vu. Flashbacks of Maldini signing Maignan for 15 million euros right before Donnarumma walked out. But here's the real story. PSG did actually offer Donnarumma an extension, but under their new wage structure. The same performance-based deals like Vitinha, Nuno Mendes, and players like Hakimi have signed. They would have been fine carrying on with him, but he wanted exceptions. He tried to call their bluff, thinking the club would bend. Instead, they just pivoted and brought in someone who fits the project. This isn't the old PSG of crazy contracts and 150 million euro splurges. They've tightened up. They have a plan, and Donnarumma, he simply didn't fit into it. His camp says PSG moved the goalposts. PSG say he refused to play by the new rules. Whatever the truth, you can forget about a happy ending. That bridge also now has been burned. Luis Enrique came out in a press conference saying he's one of the best in his position, no doubt, but we're looking for a different goalkeeper profile. Translation, he doesn't fit the plan anymore. Enrique wants a keeper who plays high, builds from the back, reads transitions, and basically acts like an extra defender. Donnarumma, more of a stay on your line, shot stopper type. Amazing at saves, yes, but not the stylistic fit. And then came the farewell message. Donnarumma thanked the PSG fans, said he'd given everything from day one. But then he slipped in the real headline. Someone has decided that I can no longer be part of the group. No name mentioned, but let's not kid ourselves. That's aimed straight at Luis Enrique, the same guy who just 2 months ago was lifting the Champions League trophy with him and now wants a different goalkeeper profile. And here's the cold reality. Donnarumma was signed back when PSG's payroll was insane. Now they're cutting costs, moving towards performance-based deals. The club offered him the same total money, but with a lower base salary plus bonuses. Donnarumma, he wanted more. This is the same guy who left Milan because he wanted 12 million euros a year and a 20 million fee for his agent when he was already making 6 million a year. Keep in mind, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, the biggest name in the squad, was on 7 million a year, and everyone else was 3 million or less. You can call it ambition, you can call it knowing your self-worth, but many people, they'll call it just greed. And remember, at that time, his agent was Mino Raiola. A lot of people put the blame squarely on him, saying the negotiations were the way they were because Raiola was greedy, because this was, what he always did. But then, sadly, in April of 2022, Raiola passed away. Donnarumma even tweeted out, Mino Raiola yesterday, today, tomorrow. This was before Raiola actually passed away. This was more in solidarity with his agent when there were some rumors that were circling that Donnarumma was actually moving away from Raiola. That's when he tweeted this out. Mino Raiola, ieri, oggi, domani. Basically showing his solidarity with him. And after Mino's passing, his brother took over as his agent. And here's the thing, the same situations have kept happening. The same crazy demands, the same standoffs, the same brinkmanship, which makes you think maybe it was never just the agent. Maybe this is just who Donnarumma is. And fair play to him if he can get that amount of money. But let's not pretend he's a victim here. This is classic Donnarumma. World-class saves, world-class drama. And at the time of this recording, there are reports of Manchester City agreeing personal terms with the player. He's even had positive talks with Pep Guardiola as Etihad prepares to swoop in. But I think there's one thing that we do need to acknowledge. Gianluigi Donnarumma is once again walking out the door, not for a new challenge, not because of the coach, but for the same reason that's followed him his whole career: money. Every big chapter in his career seems to end the same way. Moving forward, this channel will have regular content about Milan, but also interesting football stories that I want to share with you. And if you guys like that kind of content, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter at FootballKush. And as always from my side, Forza Milan. Grazie mille, ciao! This is style of play and the scandals. Oh, the scandals, including a bizarre locker room incident where a player essentially drugged his own teammates. And we'll look at how lowering Serie A from 20 teams to 18 teams might be the